Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio, broadcast from Cressa Commercial Real Estate here in Tysons, Virginia. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Jim Morgan, People Stretch Solutions, Andrea Dykes, Howard Insurance, Julie Matt, Cressa, and Gabe Muller, Muller Consulting. Jim, can you give us a rundown on who we have on the show with us today, please?
Sure. This morning we have Jason Middleton, CEO of Fuse Solutions, Dale Tuttle, partner of Withum, Smith & Brown, Erik, Rind, CEO of ImagineBC, and Kristen, Barden, Executive Director of Adams Morgan Partnership.
Let's get to know our first guest, Jason Middleton, CEO of Fuse Solutions. Jason, what is Fuse Solutions? What are you guys doing?
Fuse Solutions is about 20 employees, and we bring intelligence or IT into the intelligence community and support it.
How large or how small is this team?
We're just a little over 20 employees.
And how'd you get a job with this company?
My former employers, who are now my partners, when I left them before, they asked me to come back whenever I was ready to start something with them.
So you ended up leaving a job, and then they say, come back and we'll start a business with you. Okay, we'll dig into this. Where are you from originally?
Easton, Maryland.
And how many brothers and sisters?
I have a younger brother.
Younger brother. And how young were you when you started making money?
I was 6.
And what were you doing?
Working for my dad's auto repair company.
And how long did you work there for?
Until I was 16.
So you worked in your dad's auto repair business from the time you were 6 to 16. And didn't that sort of stink, the fact that you were working with your dad and all your friends are outside playing and having fun?
I didn't know any better at the time.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Work was the way of life for my family.
Mm-hmm. And tell us, what did you learn about working with that? When you left that business, what had you not done? I mean, had you been through the full spectrum of a little bit of everything there?
I had done it all, from sales to auto repair to stocking shelves.
You had done it all. So what did you learn from that experience that has anything to do with this IT-related business in the government sector, in the intelligence community, a Fuse Solutions? What did you learn working in auto repair that has anything to do with this?
You have to always be willing to help go that extra mile to get the customer where they need to be.
Do you really see a parallel between auto repair and IT?
Absolutely. If you can turn a wrench, you can repair a computer, and customer service is the same no matter the business.
Jim, what are you thinking?
So you spent a lot of time working in your dad's business. Why wouldn't you just continue to work there and take over that business?
When I was 15, my girlfriend at the time had introduced me to a typing class, which later led me into Future Business Leaders of America. So I ended up doing a lot of computer repair using my wrench turning skills that I learned from my family.
Mm-hmm. Doing computer repair for who?
Myself. I ended up starting a consulting business at 14.
So you were still in high school when you started your own business?
Yes.
Okay. And then where did that take you?
That took me eventually off to college, which led to full scholarships that I didn't end up taking, and I continued consulting until I finally figured out that I needed to be in the government.
Gabe?
So who do you think that you are more like, your mom or your dad?
More like my dad.
What do you bring on a daily basis to your organization now from both your mom and dad?
I bring work ethic, the ability to do whatever it is I would ask an employee to do. I would never do anything. I always make sure that what I'm asking folks to do, I show them that I'd be willing to do it as well.
And what do you bring from mom to work every day?
My willingness to drop whatever it is I'm doing at the time and help somebody in need.
Well, you saw that in your mom?
Absolutely.
How'd you see that in your mom?
She was always willing to help my brother and I and family members whenever they needed help with something, whether it was a health issue or...
So you're telling me your mom was really caring?
Very caring.
And you bring that to where? I thought business was all blood and guts and stuff.
I enjoy that part of it, but at the end of the day, everybody's got personal lives, a family they have to go home to. So I enjoy developing that relationship with the customer as well. We all have more things going on in our lives than just work.
Wait a minute. So maybe that's the reason former employers decided to support you in starting a business? What was that all about? Why did they do that?
They asked me to go out and start a new sales division.
While you were an employee?
While I was an employee.
And you were successful in doing that?
Very successful in doing that.
Very successful in doing that. And then they said to you, listen, I know you want to leave for another job, but if you ever want to start a business, come back and do it with us.
Yes.
You really are all about relationships, aren't you?
Very much so.
Andrea?
So we've heard a lot about work, but what'd you do for fun? Did you play sports as a kid?
I did. I played baseball, and then I was a rower and a skier.
Why did you choose those sports?
I chose those sports. A lot of the folks that have done well in business over the years have been rowers or skiers. And I spent a lot of time on the water on the Wye River growing up, so rowing was just a natural fit.
When you were rowing, what was your role on the team?
Started out as a coxswain and rowing stroke, and then I ended up rowing a single so that I could get my own workouts in at the faster pace that I wanted to go.
Wait. So you started off working as part of the team, and then you did what?
I started rowing individually.
Why?
I'd like to get my workouts in quickly so that I can get into the office faster.
So you have an ability to work as part of the team, which is that mom stuff, the fact that you're caring and you want to develop people, but yet on the other hand, you're also able to step out and go run forward.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Jason, when you were 8 to 14, what would your friends say about your reputation?
My occupation?
Your
Reputation. I worked, so my friends were my employers, and they would say that if you give Jason something to do, he will get it done.
Julie.
It sounds like you've had a lot of different experiences. How have those helped to shape you for the changing world of IT?
You're spot on. IT is changing, so my diverse background, I think, has helped me adapt and just be prepared for whatever comes down the pipe.
There was something that was going on with your grandparents' farm. What was that all about?
That's another place I ended up spending a lot of time in the summers if I wasn't at the auto repair store. So it'd be baling hay or baling straw in between fishing.
So where was this farm at?
Just outside of Easton, on Eastern Shore.
And so were you getting paid to do this stuff at the farm?
No. I just enjoyed doing it.
Enjoyed doing what?
Learning. Working with others, learning about how my great-grandparents grew up.
Wait a minute. This was hard work, and you didn't even know. Like, you didn't even know it was hard work working in your dad's store, and it was just sort of the way of life for you. It was the same thing of working on this farm, wasn't it?
Absolutely. A lot of sweat. Long sleeves, long pants.
And what did you do on this farm? What kind of stuff did you do on the farm?
So we would... in the summertime, it'd be baling hay, baling straw, planting, combining, plowing, disking.
Who's we?
The other folks that were on the farm, so the farmer, the different farm hands that were there. So I ended up learning a lot from them, and then by the time I was 10, 12 years old, I was out and running farm equipment myself.
But you didn't have to do that. You could have told your parents, your grandparents, you didn't want to do it.
That wouldn't have been any fun.
But you wanted to do it.
Enjoyed doing it. Enjoyed the power that the income from that gave me to do things that I wanted to do.
Earlier we were talking about your mom, and you were really touched by your mom. What was that all about?
Oh, just that she's. It's been pointed out to me over the years what a saint that she is, and she's always willing to go that extra mile.
And what's that have to do with your being?
I learned the same thing from my father. So going that extra mile, which the partners that I have today, they're all willing to go that. It's a customer first environment. If we end up having to lose a little to help a customer get where they're going, they're still a customer at the end of the day.
So Jason, in the green room, you mentioned that your kind of philosophy of always evolving and moving to the next thing. So when did that really start?
That started once I realized that I'm not as young as I used to be, and there's a lot of kids like Todd here that can run circles around me these days. But no, it's in order to keep up with where customers are going or need to go with their business. A lot of customers that are small to medium businesses, they now have to look at enterprise technology. So looking at getting that enterprise technology into those environments and helping them manage it at a non-enterprise price.
So you've had hard work as a theme. You've had kind of caring as a theme. You've had evolving as a theme. How does that impact the culture of your company today?
everybody's willing to help one another out whenever everyone's willing to do one another's job when it comes down to it.
It's really a team.
It is. It's a team effort, and it's tough to find a culture or individuals that fit that culture these days.
Well, I guess that's what you're doing. That's what you're expert at. I mean, bringing the caring to the team. They realize you're willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to do it also. You're setting the tone. What's the website address for this organization?
Fuse.solutions.
Let me have that one more time.
Fuse, Fuse.solutions.
We've been speaking with Jason Middleton, CEO of Fuse Solutions, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. And we will be back in a moment right after this business spotlight. Want help building your business with help from this show's CEOs? Our CEOs can help you uncover more opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that. They've succeeded in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars, and some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. The same CEOs you've heard on the show for 10 years may be willing to help you build your business, uncover new opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that, succeeding in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars. And some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Dale Tuttle, partner at Withum, Smith & Brown. Dale, what is Withum, Smith & Brown? What are you guys doing there?
Well, Withum Smith Brown's an accounting firm, top 30 accounting firm. I provide IT consulting services, and we're about 40, 50 people.
All right. You're providing IT services, and you're part of an accounting firm. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Cuba, New York.
And how many brothers and sisters?
I have an older sister who's an attorney and a much younger brother who's an officer in the Coast Guard.
Uh-huh. So you mentioned that something happened when you were about in ninth grade. What was going on in ninth grade?
My parents, my dad whom was a cop, my mom was a housewife at the time. They ended up getting divorced, and that was kind of traumatic when you're in high school and your sister was just headed off to college, so dealt with that on my own.
Okay, so mom and dad get divorced, your sister's not there, and how did that make you feel? What was going on with the feeling and the dynamics in the family?
Well, it makes you feel a little isolated, but I was fortunate that I could lean on the parents of one of my close friends, and essentially they became my surrogate parents as my own parents were going through their divorce.
So it was sort of frightening and insecure because your parents got divorced and your sister was no longer there, but you adopted surrogate parents, so you learned you could depend on people.
Absolutely, and it's really important to have that stability wherever you can find it in your life.
Okay, so what was interesting to me is that you have a partner in your business. And do you think the groundwork got laid back then when you really found out you could depend on people, that you could really depend on a partner?
Yeah, I mean, that's critical. I like the idea of working as a team, but everybody have their own set of responsibilities and meeting the expectations and just pulling their weight and staying. I wouldn't say necessarily staying in their lane, but pulling their weight and depending on them to do that.
All right, so it's interesting that you really know when you look for the intimacy in your relationships because you have a partner, and then you guys merged into an accounting firm where there's a whole mess more relationships. Did you find that to be frightening, or did you find that to be welcoming?
Probably a bit of both. I know that's a cop-out answer. However,
it's an honest answer.
What you need to do is find people whom you can trust in the larger organization and use those people as a springboard to other relationships in the firm. And you quickly determine who those receptive people are, and you just build upon those relationships in a structured way. And it takes a little bit of time in a larger organization, but it's working out.
Boy, oh boy, it's so simple what you're saying, and it makes so much sense, which is really you're looking for people you can depend on, that you can build relationships with, that you can build a business with.
That's right, and I think that's fundamental to any business, is a trust relationship and people working together towards a common set of goals. Absolutely.
Okay, I got it. I'm glad you said it that way, Jim.
So, Dale, you mentioned that you grew up in a small town. What did you learn by growing up in a small town?
Well, it was interesting because everybody does know your business. And the other thing is there are a certain set of expectations, certainly back in the 80s when I was growing up in a small town, and a lot of those expectations were that people would stay in town. And I never had that intent, and I went to college, and I visit from time to time, but I don't look back.
So why didn't you want to stay?
Opportunities were limited, and I didn't like the idea of everybody knowing what I was up to.
So you mentioned that you like to kind of craft your own activity or your own strategy. So what were the first steps kind of going from town to do that?
Well, I think college really was formative in that, right? When my parents didn't go to college, so when I went to college, I could lean on my sister a little bit, whom she had gone to college, but you needed to step outside your comfort zone and learn new things and learn how to do things on your own.
Okay, good. Gabe.
Dale, can you share with us what your dad did for a living?
Yeah, he was a New York State police officer. He was uniformed for about 20 years and then was a detective for like another 10.
What was it that you learned from your dad that you apply within your organization now?
Well, I definitely learned a lot of respect for law enforcement and figures of authority, and because they have a huge responsibility, and I learned that very early. And I think I take that responsibility with me now. When people depend on you, you got to come through.
So how come you didn't become a policeman?
Great question. My father wanted me to become a cop. I would say cop, and he would remind me it's police officer. I just couldn't deal with the stress and the baggage that these people bring home every day.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, bad things happen to police officers. Any given day, we hear they're dealing with stressful situations. Mm-hmm. Bad things happen to them, and you know, my parents are no different. My father was no different. My parents were divorced, which is unfortunately very common in the law enforcement community.
Sounds like you have a lot of implicit respect for people.
Yeah, I mean, people who put themselves out there in public service, I have an enormous amount of respect for. Yeah,
Andrea.
In the green room, you've talked a little bit about Mom and her independence. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, she definitely was an interesting character. She did things her own way, and she also came from a poor background where she had to make things up as she went. She was really good at doing things on the fly, and I think I got a lot of that from her myself, and possibly my sister. And my dad was, I think over time that may have been a problem for my father, who had needed more structure in his life.
You went from being a professor to running an IT practice. Does that have anything to do with Mom's lesson of doing it your own way? Yeah,
in fact, I think being a professor was a reflection of her, right? Both parents were very, very smart, very bright people, not educated per se. However, my mom always pushed me to go to school, so did my dad. But being a professor, I was able to do my own thing. And then even in business now, and with the partnership I have, it's much more independent than a lot of other jobs, right? I can carve out what I do and figure things out on my own.
Mm-hmm. Julie.
Who would you say inspired you the most from 8 to 14?
Back then, I have a lot of family in law enforcement. I really do think that it was the collective family of my dad and my uncles that were all cops. But I will steer back to some of the original things we talked about, and that is my surrogate parents, as I called them earlier. They definitely were formative. I knew them before my family's divorce, and then once that happened, I could lean on them.
Did they invite you in, or did you just walk in?
Did they invite me? They let me know that they were there for me, and I spent a lot of time at their house. And my best friend, his mom and dad, spent a lot of time at my house. So there was a lot of that mutual support.
So how's all that stuff that happened in your childhood affecting your being a dad?
Great question. I mean, I'm married. I've been married for like 20-something years. 25, I think, this year, and I have 2 daughters. And I think for me, and this was part of, I think, being a professor, is I like to observe and then learn. And I learned, honestly, loved my parents to death, but I learned how not to do things. And that's what I try to take in my own family.
So what's the similarity between being a dad and a CEO?
Flexibility, for me, it is. I don't run things according to a very tight script. At home, you have to adapt to what's happening in your wife and your kids' lives. You just have to. You have to adapt to your business. You have to adapt how you deal with your clients. You have to adapt to how you deal with your staff. It's just constant change.
Which is more difficult, being a dad or being a CEO?
For me, being in business is much harder. My kids are super easy. I don't know what my wife did, but it's much harder in business.
So at home, who wears the pants in the family, you or your wife? Who's
Definitely my wife, no question.
Well, it sounds like she's a good boss. It sounds, it makes it easy. She's got the team organized.
Yep, she keeps things organized. Absolutely.
What's so? It sounds to me like, for an IT guy, you really appreciate relationships. And it sounds to me like, maybe you like playing with technology, but it's really people that you understand.
Absolutely. I mean, technology is fascinating to me. However, just dealing with the people, and you learn a lot from your clients every day because they're business-minded, they're technically minded, and you have to be receptive to not only helping them solve their problems, but, you have to get that feedback from them. They always help you do better. You learn stuff from your clients every day.
It sounds to me like you're built, on one hand, you're able to start and build a small team, and now you're fitting within a larger team. You have a lot of personality characteristics that allow you to be really fluid in terms of the environment you operate in, as opposed to just a small business. Now you're part of a large accounting firm. What's the website address for your business?
We are Withum.com, WITHUM.com.
We've been speaking with Dale Tuttle, partner of Withum, Smith & Brown, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, we'll be back in a moment right after this break. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Erik Rind, who is the CEO of ImagineBC. What is ImagineBC?
ImagineBC is a technology company about to send an app out into the world that will allow individuals to take back control of their personal information and, even more important, monetize their intellectual property.
Ooh. How large or how small is this organization?
Roughly about 40 people right now.
And where are you from originally?
I'm originally from North Belmore, Long Island, which is in New York.
Long Island, huh? How many brothers and sisters?
Older sister.
Older sister. And Jim, where would you like to go with him?
So you mentioned in the green room that you have kind of a love for strategy. When did that first start?
As early as I can remember. I just love history and I love strategy. So even back in my elementary school days, I read voraciously about anything I could get my hands on.
So how did you apply that?
History and leads into strategy. The idea of planning for the unknown. Nobody could read the future, at least not yet. At least AI isn't there yet. And you have to be able to plot your steps, and all good strategies go to heck when the first shot's fired.
So what does that look like in your business today?
The business today it's essential because we have to prepare ourselves for all the inevitabilities of a population of everybody. We don't have a targeted market. We're trying to cater to the needs of everyone. So
that's really something that both your employees and your customers turn to you for that strategic element.
Correct. And remember, our customer here is everybody. So, yes, they have to. We have to be helping them.
You also shared when you were younger that there was a book business. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. Although my dad was in the advertising world, that was his day job, but his true love he turned into a business, which was a mail-order book business long before there was Amazon.com. And that was his hobby and his love.
How were you involved in that?
I'm sorry?
How were you involved in that?
We were slave labor. My sister and I started 6 years old. I stuffed catalogs.
Was that something you enjoyed?
No, hated it.
And let's see. Andrea, what do you got?
So you hated stuffing envelopes, but you liked being a caddy. You mentioned in the green room that you spent some time as a caddy at the local golf course. What made you different from the other caddies?
Everything. The other caddies came from a completely different demographic than I came from. My parents could have been the member of that country club. They were not, but I was in a room where guys were making their living to place their bets in the afternoon. That's not the background I came from.
But did you embrace those those differences?
Loved every minute of it.
Why?
I always love to see different aspects of life. I'm fascinated by it.
So a lot of people choose to surround themselves by like-minded folks so that, their opinions are validated or whatever. How does this play into your running a business today?
I couldn't be more opposite. I embrace everybody who's different. I know what I like. I don't need people telling me the same thing over and over again. I'm only going to learn, and it's important for any leader, any CEO to constantly be learning from listening to those who differ from you.
Perfect.
Erik, in the green room, you mentioned that you enjoy golfing, and obviously the caddy. You were a caddy. Golfing is very much an individual sport. How do you take the lessons that you learned through golfing and apply into the organization today?
Interesting. It's time management. You're out on a golf course for 4 hours all alone. And that goes for caddying, too, because you're carrying the bags. And you have to hit a shot and then walk, hit a shot and walk. And what are you using with that time between those shots? The shots are critical, but the time spent between them is probably even more critical. So understanding time management, golfers are great at it.
So how do you bring that to life in the organization today?
Time management is critical. I don't think any CEO would tell you otherwise. You're pulled in a million directions. You have many different departments to deal with. You have to wake up in the morning and know exactly how your day is going to go. And at the end of it, you look back and see, did you accomplish everything? And you hope you did, and then prepare for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Julie?
What is the line you will not cross, and how young were you when you defined it?
Sadly, I was too young. The line I won't cross is based on trust. And the strategy thing plays in. I love to plan things out, and I love to see them go into execution. In this situation, I executed my own strategy and got caught with my hand in the cookie jar, which is the dark side of strategy. And my mom
all
at the
right,
time,
come on, tell us what happened.
I figured out a way. There was money on the table, coins, because we was changed back when I was there, and it was too easy to take. So I figured, hey, I wanted to see if I can get away with it. So I plotted out the plan, and I figured on the lunch line I would be able to take some money every day, and I stuffed it into my cubby hole. Never spent a dime of it. It was only about the actual execution of the strategy. But the teacher caught me eventually on a cubbyhole clean out. Mom was called in. Mom was not very pleased with me. Mom took me home, and Mom said, I'm not sure I could ever trust you again. 7 years old, never forgotten it, still trying to earn her trust back, and it gets into your DNA. And for that matter, then, there's a line I won't cross. I simply, in business, will not lie to anybody.
Wait a minute. So your mom, you did it because, you were trying to play with a strategy as opposed to trying to steal the money. And when your mom told you that she didn't know if she could ever trust you again, how'd that make you feel?
About 2 inches tall.
Uh-huh. And
almost invisible.
And the way that's manifest is that you really want to get and keep not only your mom's trust, but everybody's trust.
Everybody's trust, which is perfect for what we're trying to do today.
What do you
critical.
mean? What are you talking about?
Well, for ImagineBC to work, our members have to trust that we work for them and not ourselves.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Well, as I said, ImagineBC is trying to help people monetize their personal information. So today, out there you see it every day, Google, Amazon, and Facebook, the worst of them all, are taking our information and turning it into the greatest fortunes known to mankind. Anybody that's sitting around this table get any of that money on our data? No. We're saying enough's enough, open your eyes, take back control, and you should start making the money. We're here to make that happen for our members. If our members don't trust us, we're in deep, deep trouble.
So you really believe and you really want people to trust you, which is really defined, you love strategy. It's actually it's a core of your business strategy nowadays. And what occurs to me is that this thing about trust, as opposed to what I hear about business, where business is suing people and blood and guts and people hating people, and you really seek to establish deep and long-term relationships with people. Am I correct about that?
Absolutely. I believe that in essence we are all good people and trustworthy people. The world gets corrupted when third parties get involved. Mm-hmm. And I think we're seeing a culmination of that corruption growing to a peak. And people need to take back control and need to do transactions with one another. And let's remove third parties. And it's possible now with technology.
Erik, you mentioned that you grew up in Long Island in a relatively affluent family, and yet you still seem to have this passion and work ethic. Where did that come from?
Oh, that came from my parents. As I said, I grew up in an affluent family. My parents could have been members of that country club, but in fact, I ended up caddying at that country club. So my parents put me to work pretty early, very early, as slave labor in the book business, but later on out there making $1. And you asked earlier why did I hate caddying? I wasn't getting paid. I'm sorry, the book business. I wasn't getting paid. Why did I love caddying? I was getting paid, and it's all about intellectual property. I was getting value for my time. My parents weren't giving that to me in the book business. I was getting it someplace else.
What do you enjoy best about your job?
Oh, these days I love my job. The sheer number of people I'm getting to meet, and especially, again, opposites. So I would have always considered myself probably a little side on the conservative side, a moderate conservative, but our message so resonates with organization of people, organization of labor, that I'm getting to meet so many people from the labor world who have opened my eyes to a world I never knew before. And understanding that fight has been fascinating.
I thought you were going to tell me the best part of your job is you get to boss people around, or you're making a ton of money, or you get to go into work at 11 o'clock in the afternoon and leave at 3 because you're the boss.
All irrelevant. In fact, I don't make any money.
What do you mean?
Right now, I don't even pay myself.
Well, wait, but you're running a business.
Sure, you have to run a business, but...
How come you're not paying yourself?
Because right now it's more important that my employees get paid than I get paid.
What are you talking
for me, it's
about?
the end result, right? I'm an equity holder in the business. My end game's at the end. When ImagineBC is worth money, I've done my job.
Yeah, but you're taking a lot of risk there. Where's the money coming from to pay the people then?
Oh, that came from an SBA loan?
But you personally signed for that, didn't you?
Yes, I have an amazing wife.
So you're at personal risk for the money that the people are getting paid, but you're doing that because you believe in the greater mission and you're willing to take the risk.
Absolutely correct. It's a giant gamble, but it's a gamble somebody has to take. And rather than sit around and listen to people and the talking heads bitch about it, I got so tired and said, enough's enough. Somebody has to do something.
What's the website address for this organization?
ImagineBC.net.
Let me have that one more time.
ImagineBC.net.
We've been speaking with Erik Rind, the CEO of ImagineBC, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders, executiveleadersradio.com. We'll be back in a moment right after this break. Want help building your business with help from this show's CEOs? Our CEOs can help you uncover more opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that. They've succeeded in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars, and some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. The same CEOs you've heard on the show for 10 years may be willing to help you build your business, uncover new opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that, succeeding in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars. And some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. Back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Kristen Barden, who's the Executive Director of the Adams Morgan Partnership. Kristen, what is the Adams Morgan Partnership? What are you guys doing?
We are a nonprofit in the Adams Morgan neighborhood of Washington, D.C., and we provide clean, safe, and marketing services.
And how many businesses are you affecting and organizing in that region?
There's about 240 businesses.
About 240 businesses. Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse, New York. And how many brothers and sisters?
I have a younger brother.
A younger brother. All right. What was going on with you as a kid? Something happened when you were about 2 or 3, huh?
Yeah, I was born with congenital hip dysplasia, and the summer I turned 2, I had total reconstructive surgery on both of my hips.
Oh, boy. So that must have been pretty painful and frightening and scary and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I had to learn how to walk all over again.
Oh, boy. So how do you think that this stuff that happened with your hips when you were 2 had affected on your personality? What did it do to you?
It made me a very determined person. Having to learn how to walk at a very young age, I remember things would fall off of the wheelchair, and rather than ask somebody else to pick it up for me, I would, try to pick it up for myself.
Uh-huh. How's that affecting your building this thing called the Adams-Morgan Partnership, this determination?
Yeah, well, I have to bridge the gap that exists between D.C. government policies and regulations and what our businesses need. And so that ability to kind of cross over those two universes and get stuff done for our businesses is part of my success.
Mm-hmm. James?
So what type of activities were you involved in as a youth?
My parents are clergy, and they did a lot of outreach in the community. They took trips overseas to Haiti and Puerto Rico and helped build schools. And hearing about those stories when they would come back really inspired me to want to help others.
So in school, you had mentioned that you were also kind of a nerdy but involved in certain activities. What were those activities?
Yeah, in high school, I was definitely a nerd. I was involved in the color guard and in choir and in Spanish club, too.
So what attracted you to choir and color guard?
I like to sing. I sang at church, and the color guard was. I didn't play an instrument to be in the marching band, but being able to be a part of that larger organization was a lot of fun.
So it's interesting that you picked activities that you're not standing out, but you're actually collaborative and working with a large group in order to be able to be successful.
Yes, definitely. I also, when I was in 5th grade, I was selected to be the head of safety patrol, which at the time I was kind of surprised at, but had a lot of fun with it, and I liked organizing the other kids.
Mm-hmm. Andrea, what are you thinking?
So you mentioned that your parents were both in the clergy and that they took some trips. What were the mission of those trips?
They took high school students to Haiti and to Puerto Rico to help build schools in really poor areas.
Why was that important to them?
They always had a sense of service in their lives, and teaching high school students, how to be of good service to others was very important.
So you grew up in a household where building a community and service to others is important. What does that have to do with your work today?
Well, in Adams Morgan, it is kind of a small town in many ways, and the business owners are many of them know each other very well. But so that sense of community has always been important to me, and I embraced that immediately when I started in Adams Morgan, and being able to continue to build on that is key to the success.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned in the green room that you were an exchange student. Can you share with us that experience?
Sure. I did a gap year after high school. Before college, I was a Rotary Youth Exchange student in Bolivia, and so at 17 years old, I was dumped into a country that I knew nothing about, didn't speak Spanish. I had to learn how to speak Spanish and how to get along with people who were different from me. I came back much more mature and able to be a leader, really, and able to embrace people who are very different than me.
Well, isn't that frightening, going to a different country and a different continent, and you didn't speak the language?
Yeah, it was frightening. I remember my very first day. They handed me a glass of juice, and I had no idea what this juice was. I didn't understand what they told me, but I, tasted the juice. It was fantastic. It was guava juice, and from then on, I sort of decided that I was going to make the best of this.
How's this yearning for new experiences have anything to do with your being successful building this thing called the Adams Morgan Partnership?
Embracing new experiences, and in my job, every day is a new adventure. I like to say, some days we're picking up trash, other days we're trying to figure out how this new DC government policy is going to impact our small businesses, and I think. Having an experience like living in Bolivia at a young age made me very flexible and very able to embrace every day as a new adventure.
Julie.
What are you most grateful for, and how has that impacted building the organization that you're doing right now?
Yeah, I think I'm most grateful for the fact that I had a very stable childhood. We moved around quite a bit in upstate New York, but my parents were a rock, and I think that really helped me be able to grow.
Being a rock helped you to grow. All right, well, how's that helping the organization to grow, the fact that your parents were a rock?
It gave me a sense of stability, and I am now able to help other businesses realize their potential, and keeping the neighborhood.
Wow, that rock was really important to you. That's what you're doing, isn't it?
Right. I'm serving as a rock, sure, for other small businesses, certainly.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been there 10 years.
Wow, you see an end in sight?
I think about that some days. Some days when I'm a little more frustrated, I think, what's next for me. But we've gone through a lot. We went through a major construction project a few years ago. We recently, rewrote our bylaws, which was a 6-month project. So periodically there's new challenges, and I've embraced them, and I look forward to the next.
That's the determination and that persistence again. You've been there for 10 years, and it's like, okay, what's next? Where's the next challenge? It sounds to me like you need challenges that keep you interested.
Yeah, I think that's very much the case. Yeah, although I do enjoy August when things are a little bit quieter.
All right, so you like some balance in your life, though.
Right, absolutely.
And what should we know about this Adams Morgan partnership and what's going on in that part of DC? What's special there?
Yeah, it's a neighborhood that we call it the real DC. It's a residential neighborhood with a thriving commercial corridor of restaurants and retail, and we recently had a new hotel open up in the neighborhood that is spurring a lot of daytime foot traffic, so we're very excited about that.
And I guess the benefit of your being the executive director is you get to go in late and leave early?
Not really. I go to a lot of community meetings in the evenings, so I pull a lot of 12 and 14-hour days on a regular basis.
Do you like? So what do you like about your job? What's the best part of your job?
Well, I am my own boss. I have a board of directors of 15 commercial property owners and business owners. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm my own boss, and I set my own priorities.
It sounds to me like you have your own congregation, like your parents had their own congregation.
Yeah, that's very much the case. Yeah, I have a congregation of business owners.
Yeah, because you're like building a community, just like your parents built a community, not only here but overseas.
Yeah. Very much.
And the community's thriving, evidently. I mean, you've got 240 folks you're affecting, so you just keep on rocking with that, don't you?
Yeah, like I said, every day is a new adventure. Sometimes business owners will call me with, a challenge about DC water, or my trash didn't get collected, and how do I solve that? And
it sounds like your parents heard it all, as clergy. Right. What's the website address for this organization?
We're admodc.com. That's admodc.com.
Let me have that one more time.
admodc.com.
We've been speaking with Kristen Barden, Executive Director of Adams Morgan Partnership here on Executive Leaders Radio. And let's see. I'd like to Jim, why don't you give us a rundown of who else we've had on the air today, please?
Sure, Herb. We've been speaking to Jason Middleton, CEO of Fuse Solutions, Dale Tuttle, partner of Withum, Smith & Brown, Erik Rind, CEO of ImagineBC, and Kristen Barden, Executive Director of Adams Morgan's Partnership.
I'd like to thank my co-hosts, Jim Morgan, People Stretch Solutions, Andrea Dykes, Howard Insurance, Julie Matt Cressa, and Gabe Muller Consulting. I'd like to thank them for giving me a hand structuring the questions, hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. And thank you for joining us today. And do have a nice day. Bye-bye.